At a family dinner, my parents demanded I pay for my sister's divorce. I showed them the lawsuit I just filed against them. Hey lovelies. Subscribe if you enjoy stories like this, and let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. Now let's continue with the story. The smell of roasted chicken filled my parents' dining room, but my stomach was already turning. I should have known something was wrong when Mom called 3 times insisting I come to family dinner. I'm 32 years old, a successful corporate attorney, and I hadn't been summoned like this since I was 16. Jasmine, we need to talk about something important, Dad said before I'd even finished my first bite. His tone was that practiced casualness that meant they'd rehearsed this conversation. My sister Kennedy sat across from me, dabbing her eyes with a tissue that looked suspiciously dry. She was 28, 4 years younger, and had always been their golden child. The one who could do no wrong. The one whose mistakes became everyone else's responsibility. Kennedy's going through a difficult time, Mom began, reaching over to squeeze my sister's hand. Marcus left her. Just walked out after 5 years of marriage. I felt a twist of sympathy. I'm sorry, Ken. That's rough. She needs help, Dad interrupted. Legal fees, moving costs, starting over. It's expensive. That's when I noticed the papers spread across the table beside the mashed potatoes. Divorce attorney quotes. Apartment listings. A handwritten budget with my name at the top. My blood ran cold. What is this? You make good money, Jasmine, Mom said. Kennedy needs family support right now. We calculated that if you cover the divorce costs and her first year's rent, she can get back on her feet. The number at the bottom made my vision blur. $45,000. We're not asking, Dad added, his jaw set. We're telling you. This is what family does. I stared at that number until it burned into my retinas. $45,000. Not a request. A demand. You can't be serious, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Kennedy's tears suddenly became very real. You've always hated me. I'm going through the worst time of my life, and you can't even help your own sister. The accusation hit like a slap. I never said I hated you, Kennedy. But this is insane. You can't just expect me to. We paid for your college, Mom interrupted, her voice sharp as glass. Room and board, tuition, everything. Or did you forget that? My hands clenched under the table. Here it was. The eternal debt they'd held over my head for 14 years. Never mind that I'd worked 2 jobs throughout college. Never mind that their help had come with strings that felt like chains. I paid you back, I said carefully. Every semester I worked at the campus library and that coffee shop. I took out loans for half of it. Dad laughed, actually laughed. Those little paychecks. That was beer money, Jasmine. We covered the real costs. And now we're calling in that debt. The audacity stole my breath. But underneath the shock, something else stirred. A memory that had been clawing at my consciousness for weeks, ever since I'd found that box in my grandmother's attic. Grandma Dorothy had died 6 months ago. While cleaning out her house, I'd discovered documents that changed everything. Bank statements. Letters. A trust fund I never knew existed. I pulled my phone from my purse, my fingers surprisingly steady despite the rage building in my chest. Actually, we need to talk about Grandma's estate, I said quietly. The color drained from Dad's face. Grandma's estate has nothing to do with this, Dad said too quickly, too defensively. His fork clattered against his plate. Mom's eyes darted to him, then back to me. Your grandmother wanted her assets divided fairly. We've already handled everything according to her wishes. Really? I opened my phone, pulling up the photos I'd taken. Because these bank statements tell a different story. I'd spent 3 weeks verifying what I'd found. Calling banks, speaking with estate lawyers, piecing together a puzzle that made me physically sick. My grandmother Dorothy had been a meticulous record keeper, thank God. Every transaction documented, every intention clearly stated. Kennedy leaned forward. What are you talking about? Our grandmother established a trust fund for both of us when we were born, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. $50,000 each plus compound interest over 3 decades. Do you know what that amounts to now, Kennedy? Approximately $85,000 each. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking, the neighbor's dog barking outside, my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Where's your trust fund, Kennedy? I asked softly. My sister's face went blank with confusion. I never knew about any trust fund. Exactly. I swiped to another photo. Because you actually got yours. Dad and Mom gave you access when you turned 21. According to these statements, you withdrew it all within 2 years. That's how you paid for your wedding, your honeymoon to the islands, and that Lexus you crashed 6 months later. Kennedy's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He turned to our parents. Is this true? Dad's jaw tightened. That money was meant to help you start your life. We made a judgment call about when you were ready for it. And me. My voice cracked. When was I supposed to be ready? Mom's perfectly composed mask finally cracked. You were always so independent, Jasmine. So self-sufficient. Kennedy needed more support, more guidance. More guidance with $85,000 of my inheritance? I stood up, chair scraping against hardwood. Do you hear yourself? Sit down, Dad commanded, using the voice that had terrified me as a child. It didn't work anymore. No. The word felt powerful. Liberating. I'm done sitting down. I'm done being reasonable while you rob me blind and gaslight me about it. Kennedy was crying again, real tears this time. I didn't know, Jazz. I swear I didn't know it was supposed to be for both of us. They said Grandma Dorothy wanted to help me specifically because I was struggling in college. You went to the same state school I did, I said, not unkindly. The one where I worked 40 hours a week while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. The one where you partied every weekend and barely graduated. That's not fair. Mom stood now too, her napkin falling to the floor. Kennedy had different challenges. She wasn't as naturally academic as you. We had to hire tutors, pay for extra help. With my money. The words exploded out of me. You paid for her tutors with my inheritance, then told me I owed you for my education. Do you understand how twisted that is? Dad's face turned red. We're your parents. That money was meant for the family's benefit. We allocated it where it was most needed. You stole from me. My voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. For 14 years, you made me feel guilty for every dollar you spent on me, while you were spending my inheritance on my sister. The truth hung in the air between us, toxic and undeniable. It wasn't stealing, Mom insisted, but her voice wavered. Parents make financial decisions for the family unit. We did what we thought was best. I pulled out a piece of paper I'd been carrying for 2 weeks. This is from Grandma Dorothy's personal journal, dated 3 years before she died. Would you like me to read it? Dad's face went ashen. He knew what was coming. I read anyway, my voice steady despite the tears blurring my vision. I'm worried about Jasmine's trust. Robert and Linda keep making excuses about why they need to manage it longer. They say she's too focused on career, too independent, that she won't use it wisely. But I see the truth. They've always favored Kennedy. My fear is they've already spent Jasmine's portion on their golden child. I should have set up the trusts differently, made them beyond their reach. This mistake haunts me. Kennedy sobbed openly now. Oh my God. Your grandmother was senile at the end, Dad said desperately. She didn't understand. She wrote this 3 years before she died, Dad. Her doctor confirmed she was completely lucid. I checked. I pulled out more papers. I also checked the trust documents. You weren't supposed to have unilateral access. Grandma required both trustees, you and Aunt Patricia, to approve any withdrawals. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Patricia. Aunt Patricia had no idea you'd emptied my trust, I continued. She thought I'd already received it years ago because that's what you told her. You forged her signature on the withdrawal authorizations. The word hung there, forged. Undeniable. We're family, Dad said, his commanding tone now reduced to pleading. We can work this out internally. There's no need to involve lawyers or make this ugly. You involved lawyers the moment you demanded $45,000 from me, I said. You made it ugly when you stole my inheritance and spent it on Kennedy's party years. I placed one final document on the table. This is a lawsuit. I filed it yesterday. The paper landed between the dinner plates like a grenade. Dad lunged for it, but I'd already moved it out of reach. Mom's wine glass toppled, red spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. You're suing us? Kennedy's voice cracked with disbelief. Your own parents? I'm suing for theft, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty, I said, my lawyer voice taking over. The trust was explicit. They had one job: preserve and transfer our inheritances at the designated time. Instead, they embezzled funds, forged documents, and engaged in fraudulent concealment for over a decade. Dad's hands trembled as he finally grabbed the lawsuit. His eyes scanned the pages, and I watched his face cycle through denial, rage, and finally fear. This will ruin us. Our reputations, our standing in the community. Should have thought about that before you stole $85,000 from your own daughter. Mom clutched her pearls, literally clutched the strand around her neck. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. And this is how you repay us. By dragging us through court like common criminals. You are common criminals, I said flatly. Theft over $50,000 is a felony in this state. And document forgery? That's another felony. I spoke with the district attorney's office. They're very interested in the evidence I've compiled. Kennedy pushed back from the table, her chair scraping loud in the sudden silence. I'll give it back. The money I got, I don't have it anymore, but I'll figure out a way. We don't have to destroy the family over this. I felt a pang of sympathy for my sister. She looked genuinely horrified, her earlier tears replaced by something approaching panic. Kennedy, this isn't about you. You didn't know. But they did. We can make payment arrangements, Dad said, his voice desperate now. The commanding patriarch had vanished, replaced by a cornered man. Monthly installments, interest, whatever you want. You really think this is about money? I asked quietly. The rage had burned through me, leaving behind something colder. Clarity. This is about 32 years of being the family's ATM. The reliable one. The one who had to be strong because Kennedy needed more attention. The one who paid her own way because Kennedy needed support. Mom's makeup was running now, black mascara tracking down her carefully powdered cheeks. You were always so capable. So independent. You didn't need us the way she did. I was a child. The words ripped out of me. A child who needed parents, not judges evaluating which daughter deserved their love more. Do you know what it's like being 7 years old, watching your parents clap and celebrate when Kennedy finally learns to tie her shoes, while you're bringing home straight A's to silence? That's not fair, Dad started. Fair. I laughed, and it sounded broken even to my own ears. You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you about fair, Dad. When I was 16, I got accepted to that summer journalism program. Remember? Full scholarship, all expenses paid except travel. I needed $300 for the bus ticket. His face went blank. He didn't remember. You said we couldn't afford it. Family budget was tight. But that same week, you bought Kennedy a $700 dress for homecoming. I danced at one night. And my program could have changed my life. Kennedy made a small noise of protest, but I kept going. The dam had finally broken. When I graduated high school, valedictorian, remember? You took me to a chain restaurant to celebrate. When Kennedy graduated 4 years later with a 2.1 GPA, you threw her a party with 100 people and a catered buffet. When I got into law school, you warned me about student debt. When Kennedy wanted to try cosmetology school, her third career change, you paid the full tuition up front. Those circumstances were different. Mom began. Everything was always different when it came to Kennedy. You want to know the real reason I'm suing? I pulled out another document, this one I'd been saving. My hands shook as I unfolded it. I found this in Grandma's papers too. A letter she wrote to me but never sent. She must have forgotten about it. I read aloud, my voice breaking. My dearest Jasmine, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I need you to know the truth about your trust fund. I set them up equally because I loved you both equally. But your parents, they always saw Kennedy as the one who needed more. When you were 5, they told me you were too self-sufficient for your own good. They worried Kennedy would be overshadowed by you. I think they've been trying to compensate ever since, balancing some invisible scale. But my darling girl, you were never supposed to sacrifice your future to even out their guilt about favoritism. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even Kennedy looked stricken. That's what this was always about, I said, tears finally spilling over. You felt guilty for favoring Kennedy, so you punished me for being the strong one. You took my inheritance to assuage your conscience about giving her everything else. Mom was sobbing now, ugly crying that smeared her makeup completely. We loved you. We love you. You loved the version of me that didn't need anything from you, I corrected. The daughter who solved her own problems, paid her own way, and never complained. Well, guess what? That daughter needed parents too. She needed them to show up to her college graduation. She needed them to help with her law school textbooks. She needed them to celebrate her passing the bar exam with more than a text message. Dad tried to approach me, hands outstretched. We made mistakes. We see that now. But we can fix this. We're still a family. I stepped back. No. We're people who share DNA. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't demand $45,000 while sitting on $85,000 they already stole. Kennedy's voice cut through the tension, small and broken. I need to tell you something, Jazz. Everyone turned to her. She looked at our parents, something like betrayal dawning on her face. The divorce. Marcus didn't just leave me. Kennedy, don't, Dad warned, his voice sharp. She deserves to know. Kennedy shouted back, startling everyone. I'd never heard her challenge our parents before. I cheated on him. Multiple times. With his brother. The room spun. What? Mom and Dad know. They've known for 6 months. They helped me hide it, paid for a private investigator to dig up dirt on Marcus so I could divorce him first and save face. She laughed bitterly. They spent another $15,000 of Grandma's money on that investigator. Money that probably should have been yours too. I felt like I'd been punched. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm done, Kennedy said, tears streaming. I'm done being their project. Their excuse. The broken one who needs fixing. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow, Jazz? Having them constantly compare me to you, then overcompensate by giving me everything you earned. He turned to our parents. You made me weak. Every time you bailed me out, solved my problems, threw money at my mistakes, you made me weaker. And you made Jasmine hate me for it. I don't hate you, I said softly and meant it. I never hated you, Ken. You should. She wiped her face. I let them do it. I took the money, the attention, the favoritism. I told myself I deserved it because everything came easy to you. But it didn't, did it? You just weren't allowed to struggle. Mom reached for Kennedy. Sweetheart, you're upset. Don't touch me. Kennedy yanked away. You owe Jasmine $170,000. What? I gasped. There was more, Kennedy said quietly. Grandma left you both savings bonds too. They told me mine matured early and I should cash them in. $35,000. I bet yours are still maturing, right? The world tilted sideways. I gripped the table to steady myself. $170,000? Dad's face confirmed it before his mouth could form lies. The defeat in his slumped shoulders told the whole story. You said the bonds were for Kennedy only, Mom whispered to him. You said Jasmine's weren't set up yet. You lied to Mom too? I couldn't process it. The betrayal had layers I hadn't imagined. Kennedy pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. I'm sending you screenshots of everything they gave me. Every withdrawal, every gift. You need all the evidence you can get. Kennedy, stop this right now, Dad commanded, but the authority had drained from his voice entirely. No. My sister met his eyes with a steel I'd never seen before. I'm 28 years old and I just realized I've never made a real decision in my life. You've orchestrated everything, managed everything, controlled everything. Well, I'm done. Guess I'll testify. Whatever you need. Mom's legs gave out. She collapsed into her chair, aging 10 years in an instant. We did it for the family. To keep everyone together, keep everyone stable. You did it because you couldn't admit you failed Kennedy, I said, the pieces falling into place. You threw money at her problems instead of teaching her to solve them herself. And when that money ran out, you took mine. When that ran out, you probably would have taken from someone else. I looked at my father, really looked at him. The man who'd taught me to ride a bike but missed my law school graduation. Who'd been my hero until I realized heroes don't play favorites. Did you ever love me as much as you loved her? The question escaped before I could stop it. His hesitation was the answer. That split second of silence before he scrambled to respond told me everything I'd spent 32 years trying not to see. Of course I did. I do. You're my daughter. But I wasn't your favorite. The admission hung in the air, heavy and horrible. Mom started talking rapidly, desperately, words tumbling over themselves in a futile attempt to rewrite history. Every parent has a child they connect with more naturally. It doesn't mean we loved you less. You were just so independent, so self-contained. Kennedy needed us more, and humans are programmed to respond to need. Stop, I said flatly. Stop making evolutionary excuses for theft and favoritism. You're not wolves protecting the weaker cub. You're people who made choices. Deliberate, repeated choices to prioritize one daughter over the other. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. Ready to move forward? Judge approved the emergency hearing for Monday. 3 days. In 3 days this would become public record. My parents would have to answer for what they'd done in court, under oath, with their friends and neighbors potentially watching from the gallery. Monday, I said aloud. We have a hearing Monday at 9 a.m. You'll need to bring every bank statement, trust document, and financial record from the last 15 years. The judge will want to see the full scope of the embezzlement. Embezzlement, Dad repeated hollowly. You're really doing this. You're really going to destroy us. You destroyed me first, I said simply. You just did it so slowly I didn't notice until I found Grandma's papers. 32 years of being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need help. Do you know what that does to a person? Kennedy spoke up, her voice small but firm. I'll pay you back what I got. I don't know how, but I will. I'm getting a job. A real job, not something Dad arranges through his golf buddies. And I'm moving out. I can't live in the house they bought me anymore, knowing where the money came from. Kennedy, you're being ridiculous, Mom started. No, I'm being honest for the first time in my life. My sister stood, grabbing her purse. I'm staying at a friend's place tonight. Don't call me. She paused beside my chair and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Respect. Kennedy left, the door closing with a finality that echoed through the house. It was just me and our parents now, the ruins of our family dinner scattered across the table like evidence at a crime scene. You'll never have children of your own, Mom said suddenly, viciously. How will you understand what it's like to make impossible choices, to try to balance needs and resources and love? You'll never know how hard parenting is until you're the one making these decisions. The cruelty of it stole my breath. But beneath my shock I felt something unexpected. Pity. If my choices as a parent would involve stealing from one child to give to another, then lying about it for decades, I hope I never do understand, I said quietly. And Mom? I do have a daughter. Adopted her last year. She's 6 years old and she came from foster care with more trauma than any child should carry. Their faces went blank with shock. They hadn't known. I'd stopped sharing my life with them years ago and now they knew why. Her name is Zara. She's brilliant and funny and struggles with attachment because every adult in her life has let her down. I'm teaching her that she's worthy of love without having to earn it. That she doesn't have to be perfect or strong or self-sufficient to deserve care. The things you never taught me. Dad's face crumpled. You have a granddaughter we've never met. You have a granddaughter you'll never meet, I corrected. Because I won't let you do to her what you did to me and Kennedy. I won't let you teach her that love is conditional, that some children deserve more than others, that family is a hierarchy instead of a haven. I gathered my things, leaving the lawsuit papers on the table. The hearing is Monday. Bring your lawyer. Bring your records. Bring whatever justifications help you sleep at night. But know this, I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it for 6-year-old me who learned to never ask for help. For 16-year-old me who missed opportunities because I wasn't worth the investment. For every version of me that you failed. I walked to my car through air that felt too thick to breathe. Behind me I could hear Mom's sobs, Dad's angry voice, the sound of dishes breaking. Whether thrown or dropped, I didn't know and didn't care. My hands shook as I started the engine. The house where I'd grown up looked different now, like a movie set with the illusion stripped away. Just a building full of broken promises and buried resentments. The lawsuit would take months. My lawyer warned me that family court battles were ugly, that they'd try to paint me as greedy, ungrateful, vindictive. That Kennedy's testimony might not be enough. That I might lose everything and still not get my money back. But as I drove away, I realized the money had never been the point. It was about finally saying the truth out loud. I deserved better. I deserved parents who showed up. I deserved the inheritance my grandmother meant for me. I deserved to be loved without having to earn it through perfection and independence. My phone rang. Aunt Patricia. She'd been contacted by my lawyer, learned everything, and had immediately sided with me. Her voice on speakerphone was fierce and protective, the maternal presence I'd always needed. I'm so sorry, baby girl. I should have checked on those trusts myself. I should have protected you. It's not your fault, I said, surprised to find I meant it. They were good liars. Still, you deserved better from all of us. At a red light, I pulled up a photo on my phone. Zara, gap-toothed and grinning, holding her first report card. All S's for satisfactory, one N for needs improvement in sitting still. I'd taken her for ice cream anyway, celebrating the effort rather than the outcome. That night, the judge would rule in my favor. My parents would be ordered to repay everything with interest. The criminal charges wouldn't stick. Family theft was legally complicated, but their reputation would never recover. Kennedy would rebuild her life slowly, painfully, but honestly. And I would go home to my daughter and teach her what I'd learned too late. That you don't have to be perfect to be loved, and being strong doesn't mean carrying everything alone. But none of that mattered as much as this moment, driving away from my childhood home for the last time, finally free of the weight I'd carried for 32 years. The weight of being the reliable daughter. The strong one. The one who didn't need anything. I was allowed to need. Allowed to hurt. Allowed to demand what I deserved. And that was enough. If you've experienced similar family dynamics or financial betrayal, remember, you're not alone. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear they deserve better. And remember, being strong doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means knowing your worth and protecting it even when it costs you everything.